I stood in front of him, my fingers tightly grasping the hem of my skirt, my eyes dim. Ryan handed me the divorce agreement and said coldly, "Sign it, just for show, to appease the little girl." I didn't argue. I just nodded silently and signed my name without hesitation. My heart was already broken beyond repair. When I left, I heard my friends laughing and joking behind me. Sister-in-law is so obedient. Didn't she say anything when you asked her to get the certificate? Ryan picked up the cigarette and said leisurely, "Let's make a bet." They actually made a bet that 1 month later, I would obediently follow him to the Civil Affairs Bureau to exchange the marriage certificate for a divorce certificate, and I would still cry like a dog and be as obedient as before. I held the phone in my hand, not saying anything, but quietly replied to the message I had just received. "Just marry me. Isn't that okay?" "Okay." My reply was concise, but it seemed to carry some kind of silent power. The reply came almost instantly. I hung up the phone, and the room was still filled with laughter. "That's fine. Sister-in-law is really obedient. I'll pay for everyone's drinks next month." "No, 3 months," Ryan said calmly. "Okay, okay." Everyone laughed. I hurried out of the office, and only when I walked out of the building and the sunlight stung my eyes could I hold back my tears. Ryan's new favorite is a young girl who has not graduated yet. He bought her a house in Haicheng, which is filled with luxury goods. But the girl never gave him a chance to get close to her and even refused to let him hug her. She lived in a 360 square meter apartment, wore high-end clothes worth millions of yuan, and said stiffly, "I don't want to be a mistress." Ryan thought she was very interesting. Now, it is the third time Ryan acted for her. The first time, he and I showed our affection. At that time, I didn't know Jessica existed. I hugged him happily and took many photos. He posted a full screen of 9 squares, and I watched with expectation, but I couldn't see that post in the circle of friends. Later, I found out that all that was visible only to Jessica. The second time, he and I had a falling out and left me on the street. He took a picture of me crying alone and sent it to Jessica. "See, there's really nothing she can do. She can't live without me." The third time, he said he wanted to divorce me. I was looking at my phone screen when it suddenly vibrated. I opened it and saw another message from Jessica. "Really? Are you serious?" I wiped my tears and smiled. "Really?" In the afternoon, Ryan took me to the Civil Affairs Bureau again, with a smile on his face, as if everything was not worth mentioning. He was in a good mood along the way, and kept asking me where I wanted to go for our third anniversary. We grew up together and have been married for 3 years. He said softly, "How about going to Prague? When you were 7 years old, you said you wanted to go to Prague Square to feed the pigeons." He stopped the car, opened the door, unbuckled my seatbelt, and looked at me gently. "Tisk, why did you cry again?" He frowned and gently brushed the corner of my eye with his fingertips. "I told you, just pretend, a sparrow. I'm just curious when she will bow her head." As he was talking, something fell out of his pocket. A box of condoms. Ryan coughed lightly, touched his nose, and took me to the Civil Affairs Bureau without explaining anything. Everything went smoothly. I have a little aphasia, and I often can't speak when facing strangers, but nodding and shaking my head is not difficult for me. "Is this a voluntary divorce?" "Yes." I nodded. "Are you sure the relationship has broken down?" "Yes." "Then there will be a 1 month cooling off period. Come back after this month." Ryan took the receipt, turned around, took a photo, and lowered his head to send a message. My phone rang, and it was a message from Jessica. The photo on the receipt attached a sentence. "Are you satisfied? Wash it for me tonight." I clicked on his avatar and blocked him. Just after I blocked him, another text message came through WeChat. "The plane ticket has been purchased. See you in Paris in a month." I stared at the phone screen coldly, but my heart was filled with waves. At night, I dreamed of Ryan again. When he was a child, he was always so sweet that it moved people. "Sister Olivia, you have beautiful eyes. Can I look at them and talk to you often?" "Sister Olivia, you play the piano so beautifully. I want to listen to you play every day." "Sister Olivia, I love you the most. When I grow up, I want to marry you." My heart was moved, and I liked him too. We grew up together, played together after school, and every day was so beautiful. Until that day, a car accident changed everything. I watched with my own eyes as a truck crashed into our car. At that moment, the world became dead silent. I lost my family, and my world fell into darkness. I needed Ryan. Only he could comfort me and let me sleep. At that time, he patiently accompanied me to practice voice, told me stories, and accompanied me through every sleepless night. I married him as if it was natural. The day after I graduated from college, he leaned over my bed with a smile in his eyes. "Olivia, let's get a marriage certificate." I didn't think much about it because he was the only one in my heart, so I agreed on the spot. That day, we became husband and wife. Our little home was full of warmth and sweetness. In my dream, I seemed to see a field of red roses covering our new home. Ryan knelt tenderly in front of the bed and kissed me. "Olivia, we will be so happy forever." At that time, I really thought this was my happiness. However, reality was a loud slap in the face. Suddenly, I opened my eyes and everything around me seemed unreal. I picked up my phone and the message from Jessica calmed me down instantly. A photo of a messy bed and a splash of scarlet made me feel sick. I rushed to the bathroom, my stomach churning. I retched for a while, and all I vomited were physiological tears. Finally, I squatted on the cold floor with my legs hugged, feeling weak and soulless. Suddenly, the phone rang, and a deep male voice came into my ears. "Olivia." My heart skipped a beat, and I picked up the phone. William. William is my fellow patient in the hospital. I thought he was a girl with a gentle name and a pink bunny head. At first, we hardly communicated, and he was always cold and ignored me. However, most aphasia patients have a heavy psychological burden, and he and I seem to have a special tacit understanding. So, I started to share my daily life with him, from text to voice, from photos to videos, and gradually, we became like friends who had known each other for many years. I didn't expect that during an accidental call, I learned that he was a boy. At that moment, I almost had a seizure. We kept our distance, but that didn't reduce his concern. Until that day, when Ryan handed me the divorce agreement, I almost lost my mind. I sent a message to William. "William, I feel like I'm going to be homeless." At that time, I didn't expect him to suddenly respond. "Then you can marry me, okay?" My heart was shaken, and the jokes and laughter around me seemed to become white noise. Ryan never saw my true heart. Jessica was the treasure in his eyes. I looked up through the crack in the door, and the loneliness deep in my heart became more and more unspeakable. William gave me a detailed list of things to do to change my life. Visas, lawyers, divorce procedures. These are all routine procedures, but he also listed a dense list of restaurant recommendations because he said, Chinese food abroad is not delicious. Following his advice, I began to enjoy my time alone. Although I was lonely, I no longer felt empty. Every day I ate and drank according to the list, packed my luggage, and sorted out my mood. Gradually, I began to adapt to this kind of life, without Ryan, just me and myself. However, Ryan sent me a message at the most inopportune moment. "You didn't call me. Didn't you miss me?" He said he and Jessica were traveling and wanted to show her the world. Then he sent me a photo. "On our 3rd anniversary, shall we bring you along?" My heart sank, and I wanted to block him again. However, thinking about the upcoming trip to the Civil Affairs Bureau, I resisted. In the next half month, I dealt with small items such as jewelry and bags. Went to the hospital for a checkup to make sure I was not pregnant. I sorted out the assets that Ryan had entrusted to me for safekeeping over the years, prepared everything, and waited for that final decision. The night before going to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ryan called, "Olivia, are you moving away?" He seemed to have gotten used to my silence and smiled to himself. "Olivia, you are so cute. Is this really a show? In this case, why not just go through with it? Tomorrow you will go with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate." I held the phone, feeling bitter, and agreed to it. Okay. The laughter on the other end of the phone gradually faded away, and I sent in the time via WeChat. The next day, I got up early, and Ryan came late, with a tooth mark left by Jessica on the corner of his mouth. He didn't care. I pretended not to see it. The divorce process was smoother than last time, taking only 5 minutes. Everything seemed like a game, and I was no longer the person who expected him to be gentle. Olivia, I'll give you a surprise tomorrow. Ryan gently kicked my calf. At that moment, I suddenly looked at him calmly. Ryan, are you free tonight? I have something to tell you. Ryan was stunned. He seemed a little surprised. I have always called him husband since we got married. At that moment, his eyes softened slightly, and he smiled in an unknown way. Okay. Ryan gave me a lot of warmth in the past, and our marriage was full of hope until he changed his mind. I am grateful for everything he has done for me, but even the deepest feelings cannot make up for the pain caused by betrayal. That night, it was raining heavily outside and thunder roared. I sat in the living room, enduring the trembling in my heart. We had lost our loved ones in such weather before. The car accident happened on such a stormy night. My heart sank into the abyss again, and all the memories came flooding in like a tide, almost drowning me. I kept waiting for Ryan to come home, and I was even a little afraid that once he came back, I would cry in his arms again out of habit. But he didn't come. He just called me, and the noisy sound of the bar was on the phone. What redemption? Bullshit. Ryan's friend's voice came from the phone. I was so annoyed with her in those years. If my mom hadn't forced me to do so, I wouldn't have bothered with her. I heard it clearly, and their laughter was like a knife stabbing into my heart. Mary? Guess why you're getting married so early? A voice continued to sneer. It's because she doesn't let me touch her. I'm just curious. She can't make any sound when she's excited. So can she make any sound in bed? Ha! Thunder roared, as if everything collapsed in an instant. I wanted to hide, to avoid this humiliation, to avoid this unbearable truth. However, no matter where I went, the rain, thunder, and lightning, and their laughter followed me. Just when I was about to collapse, William called. On the other end of the phone, his voice was as calm as water, clearly penetrating the surrounding noise. Olivia? His voice was very light, but full of power, as if it instantly cut off all the noise. Are you crying? He asked softly. I wanted to say no, but my voice got choked up and tears flowed out like a flood. Wait for me. He remained calm. I'll pick you up. The Ryan family was single again instantly became a hot topic in Haiching. At the bachelor party organized by the Sons, several men who were drunk in the KTV suddenly woke up from their sleep. Wow, big news. William actually showed up in Haichung. They said excitedly while eating melon seeds. He even rushed back overnight. He was on a private jet. Is this true? Didn't he say he was recuperating abroad? He hasn't been seen in 10 years. Really? It's even on the trending search list. The phone was passed around and the scene became lively. It's really him. He's hugging a girl. He said he'd come back overnight to take the girl abroad. Amidst the commotion, someone casually mentioned, "Look, this girl. Why does she look familiar? Does she look like my sister-in-law?" Ryan didn't pay much attention to it at first, but when he saw the photo, his heart suddenly sank. The figure in the photo was in the heavy rain at the airport, and the tall figure under the umbrella was familiar to him. Her figure and hair color seemed so familiar, as if the unavoidable fact hit his heart again. He suddenly threw his phone aside, as if no emotion was surging in his heart. Olivia. How could she know William? She asked him to go to her apartment tonight. Ryan's heart was in turmoil, and he took out the cigarette from the cigarette holder, lit it, and suppressed his anger. He had a feeling in his heart that Olivia seemed to have completely changed in the past month. He dialed her number anxiously, but the time on the screen showed 3 o'clock in the morning. Forget it. She should be sleeping at this time. But no matter what time, he always knew that Olivia would always answer his call. But when he dialed the number, what he was waiting for was the cold, invalid number, prompt tone. Olivia, he murmured, feeling an overwhelming sense of anxiety. After the car accident, I never left Haiching. All means of transportation scared me, and going to a completely unfamiliar place made me even more nervous. Just when I thought I would be trapped in these fears forever, William's appearance broke it all. He took me away from Haiching. When we got into his car, I clasped my hands nervously and didn't dare to look him in the eye. He was tall and slender, and I still looked so small when I sat in the back seat. His cold expression and indifferent answers gave me a sense of oppression. It seemed that if I came into contact with him, I could only be silent and distant. At the Haiching airport, reporters surrounded us, shouting one by one, "William, William!" And I just sat beside him silently, and suddenly I felt as if I was pushed under the spotlight, with all eyes focused on us. I felt uneasy. William, I didn't even know his name until I spoke to him. Paris, a place I had only dreamed of, now seemed to be right in front of me. He handed me a candy with a pink bunny printed on the paper bag. At that moment, my memory went back to 2 years ago when I had repeatedly said to her, "Sister, do you like candy?" The warmth she showed me when she responded to me for the first time made me feel soft in my heart. "Shall I peel it for you?" he asked softly with a gentle light in his eyes. I nodded slightly, and he peeled off the candy wrapper skillfully. I took the candy and put it in my mouth. The familiar sweet taste spread in my mouth, as if my tension and fear were instantly dissipated. This sweet feeling no longer made me feel strange, as if I had finally found the long-lost comfort. I actually stayed in a completely unfamiliar place. William arranged for me to live in his apartment, but he seemed very busy and rarely went home. In the first week after the jet lag, he came to talk to me. "Olivia, what kind of job do you want to do?" This sentence made me stunned. Ryan has always controlled me and didn't let me do any work. "When you're nervous, you can't speak clearly. What kind of work can you do?" He once said, "Be good, just plant flowers and grass at home. What else can you do?" But William is different. "You haven't started language learning yet, but there are many Chinese people in Paris." He said it calmly and naturally, as if he had seen through everything. I hesitated for a moment. "Can I?" I asked unconfidently. "How do you know if you don't try?" He said easily, with a hint of encouragement. So, I really found a job. I became a Chinese tutor, teaching a Chinese kid Chinese. Although it was just an ordinary tutoring job, I felt happy for the first time in a long time. It turned out that I was not useless, and I could do something to change my life. Just when I found a little satisfaction for myself, Ryan's messages came pouring in like snowflakes. "Olivia, where have you been? Ryan is going crazy looking for you." Ryan is looking for me? I was not in a good state when William and I left Haiching that night. So, all the follow-up matters were handed over to William. He helped me deal with the asset information, entrusted a lawyer to handle Ryan's family affairs, and also handed over the follow-up procedures of the divorce to the lawyer. And I just lived quietly and gradually adapted to this new environment. The phone suddenly rang, breaking my silence. "Olivia, what are you doing?" Ryan's voice came over, angry and anxious. "Did your phone get stolen? If it was stolen, why didn't you buy a new one?" I listened quietly, my heart filled with indifference. Ryan had never been so angry before. Maybe he never thought that I was no longer the woman he could easily control. "Why did you send those things to the old house?" he continued to question. "Do you still want to celebrate the 3rd anniversary?" I took a deep breath and finally said, "Ryan, we are divorced." At that moment, the silence on the other end of the phone made me feel a clarity and relief I had never felt before. I didn't continue to argue. I just hung up the phone. No regrets. No regrets. I had decided not to get entangled with him anymore. However, Ryan's anger did not end, and messages kept pouring in. "Olivia, how many times have I told you to act? Don't you understand? What's your new phone number? Send it to me. Add me back on WeChat. Do you still want to contact me?" I looked at these messages, and my heart was no longer moved. Ryan could no longer have any influence on me. I clicked on his profile picture and blocked him without hesitation. Then, all the contacts related to him were deleted. I decided to say goodbye to my past life completely. As I gradually integrated into the new environment, I found that it was easier to let go of the past. On the way back to the apartment, I bought a small cake, thinking that William might come home today. We have passed the awkward period of first meeting, and although he is sometimes very busy, I know that he is no longer so distant to me. When I arrived at the apartment with the cake, I didn't expect him to come back so early. As soon as I took out the key, the door was already opened. William was wearing a dazzling white shirt and holding a fluffy puppy in his arms. Puppy. I was so surprised that I forgot about the cake in my hand and reached out to hug the puppy excitedly. Do you have one? I haven't heard you mention it before. William smiled and said, It's for you. My heart skipped a beat when he closed the door. Give it to me. I was stunned and asked subconsciously, Can I? Ryan never agreed to my keeping a pet, saying that the house would be covered with hair and have a strange smell. But William's answer suddenly made me feel relieved. Why not? He asked, a gentle light in his eyes. My heart seemed to be touched by something, emitting a beam of warm light. I can have my own puppy again. Just like when I was a child, all my troubles can be dissipated in its company. I handed William a small cake and went to play with the puppy on the sofa. I couldn't help but think of the puppy my parents gave me when I was a child. It was my birthday gift. Since then, I have never had any troubles. Every time I see the dog, all my troubles become insignificant. When I looked up, William was sitting next to me, quietly eating cake with a slight smile on his lips. Suddenly, he looked at me and whispered, Sister, the cream got on you. I subconsciously stood up and was about to get a tissue, but suddenly I realized I called the wrong name just now. Sister, he moved closer, and his breath followed, almost making me unable to breathe. The puppy ran around us and suddenly let out a slight cry, as if it felt the atmosphere between us. I wanted to step back, but William gently grabbed the back of my head, lowered his head without tolerance, and kissed me. Olivia, have you forgotten something? His voice was so low and hoarse that it almost made my heart explode. My cheeks instantly became hot, and my head felt dizzy, but he kissed me again. This time the kiss was soft and warm, and I couldn't help but close my eyes, feeling confused. He whispered in my ear, When are we going to register? Today or tomorrow? I was still in his arms, thinking vaguely, this day has passed. Maybe we can go tomorrow. But the next day, William really took me to the city government to handle the marriage procedures. The whole process was a bit rushed, but I was filled with anxiety and excitement. The mayor chattered for a while, and after he signed, we got the marriage certificate. At this moment, I finally understood that choosing William might not be a wrong decision. However, the only thing that made me unhappy was that Ryan had managed to find my mobile phone number in Paris. He called me from a French number, and as soon as the call was connected, he excitedly said, You really went to Paris? I took a deep breath and tried to suppress the emotions that were rising up. Ryan, stop interrupting my life. He angrily demanded, Your life? What kind of life do you have? You went to Paris to find that angle, didn't you? I listened to his malicious words and responded calmly. These have nothing to do with you. I'm your fucking husband. It has nothing to do with me, but who else? He shouted angrily. Get back here right now. Otherwise, I hung up the phone without hesitation, feeling only a sense of relief. His text message followed. Not replying, huh? Fine. You're capable. If you're capable, you can rely on this little sister for the rest of your life. I never thought Ryan would be so bad. He could cheat on me in my marriage and openly treat me as a fake divorce. Looking back on what he had done, I felt like I had woken up from a dream. It was because I was blinded by the affection we had when we were young that he was able to treat me so selfishly. That night, my phone was once again bombarded with messages from friends. Ryan's moments, screenshots, and intimate photos with Jessica let everyone know about his new relationship. Whether I was willing to admit it or not, the facts were in front of me. The exposure of his relationship proved that everything I had experienced had already become a mystery that could not be reversed. I didn't want to explain anything, so I just posted a photo of my divorce certificate on WeChat Moments. At that moment, the explosion in my college roommate group made me feel relieved. Olivia, you finally woke up. I've always felt that something was wrong with Ryan. He never took you to meet friends and never posted you on WeChat Moments. In these words, I realized that my past really didn't matter anymore. Everyone saw something that I hadn't noticed. What I hadn't understood had already been there. However, Ryan did not stop there. A few days later, his behavior became even more absurd. Friends received another message from him, a photo of a diamond ring and a screenshot of a conversation with Jessica. I'll give you a surprise in 3 days. Are you free? My mom's birthday party is in 3 days. If you don't come back, I'll have your mom's daughter-in-law replaced. Hearing this, I could only sneer. All this was no longer worth mentioning to me. I told myself, ignore him. But I knew I had to return home. That night, William returned home with 2 suitcases. He said calmly, let's go back to the country. I was stunned for a moment and didn't react. The marriage certificate needs to be notarized in China. He continued to pack the documents. Also, I have to take you to meet your relatives and friends. I suddenly felt uneasy. Just as my roommate said, Ryan never took me to public places and didn't dare to let me appear in his social circle. He was afraid that I would stutter and be embarrassed because of my aphasia. But William didn't care about these at all. I was still a little hesitant and wanted to ask, can I? But before I could say anything, William had already stopped what he was doing, turned around and held my face with one hand. His eyes were like the deep darkness of the night, calm but firm. Olivia, there is nothing that is impossible. At that moment, my heart trembled slightly, and warm emotions surged into my heart like a tide. It turns out that loving someone is so simple and gentle. William's appearance made me feel a sense of security that I had never felt before. William said he had to go to Haiching to take care of some things, and I also had things to do. So, our journey back home started from Haiching. Unlike the heavy rain when we left, the sun was shining and the air was fresh when we got off the plane. William, wearing sunglasses, led me to the VIP channel. I knew he was not an ordinary person. He was the heir to the family group, the man who made waves in the business world. I never knew he had such a background. 12 years ago, the battle for the sovereignty of the group was widely reported in major media. And he, who was still a college student at the time, actually succeeded in counterattacking and took control of the group. In just a few years, he doubled the size of the group again with thunderous means. I had heard of his name before, but I didn't pay much attention to it at that time. It was not until this time, when we started to get in touch, that I realized that William was so outstanding. However, I was not surprised. What really reassured me was his gentleness and firmness. He took me to the hotel smoothly, and I rested in the room, waiting for the meeting with the lawyer. When I arrived at the law firm, the lawyer told me, Ms. Olivia, your assets have been processed according to your request, and the contract for the property has been completed. But then his expression became a little embarrassed. Ms. Olivia, you still have several properties that are your marital property with Mr. Ryan. According to the divorce agreement, you should each get half. But Mr. Ryan refuses to cooperate. I was a little confused. Why did he refuse? He said you are not divorced. The lawyer coughed lightly and lowered his voice. Hearing this, my heart was slightly shaken, and I felt a surge of anger. I immediately took out my phone and asked my roommates to block Ryan, but he still found various small accounts and added me in various ways. Finally, I couldn't help but call one of the numbers and asked him briefly, "Are you free tonight? Let's meet." Ryan didn't reply to me immediately, and his chat box kept showing typing. After a long time, he replied, "Were you willing to return to your country?" His tone was so sarcastic that I almost laughed out loud. I knew in my heart that he just wanted to continue to interfere in my life and challenge my bottom line. His disdain and contempt for me had been exposed. Although he refused to cooperate in handling our joint assets, I knew exactly how to deal with it. It was nothing more than applying to the court for a compulsory execution. However, this time I was back home for a short time, and I decided to keep things simple and clear and not to entangle too much. Seeing that I didn't respond to him immediately, he sent another message. "You want to make peace, but you still have a chance. My mother's birthday party is tomorrow. Come and apologize." He also attached a hotel location and an invitation to his mother's birthday party. This kind of provocation really makes people want to laugh at him. I blocked him again without hesitation. Just then, William's message arrived. "I've sent you a few suits. Take a look. I'll take you to meet some friends tomorrow." Seeing that William attached so much importance to it, I inexplicably felt a sense of anticipation, putting aside all the unpleasantness brought by Ryan. I took a taxi back to the hotel, feeling a little nervous and excited. After all, this time I was meeting William's friend. William's gift was not just a few dresses, but several rows of hangers, matching shoes, jewelry, and even makeup artists who were busy taking care of everything for me. All these careful arrangements made me feel that he really valued me, and I dared not neglect them. Changing clothes and trying on dresses took almost the whole night. After some selection, I finally chose a low-key and elegant outfit. This outfit is suitable for the occasion and also in line with the style I want. William was still busy with his own affairs. He hadn't been back to China for 10 years. This time, he went to the Haiqing branch in person to handle some affairs. It can be seen how busy he was. The next day, I slept in the hotel until the afternoon. When I woke up, William's message came. I asked the driver to pick you up. I changed my clothes, put on my makeup, and was about to go out when a strange number called me. My intuition told me that it must be Ryan's harassment again. Sure enough, after I pressed the hang-up button, he kept calling. Every time he called, I hung up without hesitation and finally chose to block him again. Unexpectedly, when the driver stopped the car, I saw Ryan. He was standing at the door of the hotel, anxiously making phone calls and sometimes smashing the phone in anger. I sneered in my heart. This man really hasn't changed at all. Standing here, I saw the name of the hotel, which turned out to be the place Ryan sent me the location yesterday. William's phone just happened to ring. Have you arrived? Do you need me to pick you up? His voice always calms me down. No matter what kind of situation I'm facing, I can always deal with it calmly. I glanced at Ryan, who was still furious, and said, "No, I'll go up by myself." When I stepped into the hotel, Ryan's eyes locked directly on me. His eyes were a mixture of surprise, ecstasy, and anger that could not be concealed. Although he stood there almost exploding with anger, I was no longer the woman who would bow down for him. Ryan kicked the broken phone away fiercely and shouted with red eyes, "Olivia!" But he only called out my name and didn't continue. Then, he pursed his lips and turned his face away. "Let's go." There was a strange sense of pride in his tone. "I knew you would come." He turned around and walked toward the inner hall. I suddenly realized that William was talking about meeting a few friends. Wasn't that these people? I didn't catch up immediately. Ryan deliberately slowed down his pace, approached me, and whispered, "Okay, I'll admit my mistake first, okay?" His low voice was a little tired. "Don't you just not like Jessica? I won't associate with her, okay? You are too petty. The girl didn't do anything to you." His words were still so selfish and narrow-minded. I took a deep breath and suppressed my anger and disdain. I went up to the second floor and saw some familiar faces. Several people were sitting there, talking in low voices. "Wow, my sister-in-law is finally back." A malicious laugh broke my thoughts. It has to be Ryan. She is such a good girl, but she is imitating the canary on the run. It's really funny. "Ryan, there's so many people here today. Are you going to take her with you? Aren't you afraid?" "That's right. We're the big shots today." Ryan glared at them and shouted coldly, "Get lost." Ryan then whispered to me, "You were sensible enough to dress up before coming." He extended his hand to me. "Here, let me hold your hand." I stopped in disdain and said coldly, "Ryan, I'm not here for you." He chuckled. "All right, it's come to this. Why are you still pretending? If you don't come for me, who else will you come for?" When the door to the inner hall was opened, I saw William. Although this was not his home court, he sat in the main seat. Ryan's mother and eldest brother sat on his left and right, and the guests around him were talking in low voices. The atmosphere seemed extremely tense. However, without warning, everyone's eyes were focused on William, forming a semicircle with him as the center. "Did you see that?" Ryan pointed at William coldly. "The one in the middle, my mom invited him with great difficulty. His wife will be here soon, so be good. If you embarrass Ryan's family, my mom and my eldest brother will never forgive you." He walked up to me and tried to pull my hand again, but I quickly shook him off. "Olivia." Ryan's voice suddenly burst out, loud enough to attract the attention of many people. Even William looked over and frowned slightly. Ryan's mother angrily shouted, "Ryan, what are you doing?" Her eyes were fixed on me, and it was obvious that she was not happy with my presence at this occasion. Ryan's eldest brother glanced at me with contempt and then smiled at William. William's wife should be here. Should I go down and meet her? I told you to stop making trouble. Are you satisfied now? Ryan scolded in a low voice. This is the first time you have met so many people from Ryan's family, and this is the impression you give people. I walked towards William, but he suddenly called me. Olivia, come here. His voice was a call that was hard to refuse, and my heartbeat accelerated unconsciously. Ryan's mother, and Ryan's older brother were all stunned. Almost everyone's eyes were on me. My heart was filled with anxiety, but also a hint of expectation. I walked towards William. He looked at me and whispered, introducing Olivia. He gently kissed the back of my hand, and that gentle gesture made my heart warm. Then, he turned to the guests and calmly announced, my wife. This sentence almost made the whole banquet hall fall into silence. All eyes were focused on me instantly, and I felt a pressure that almost made me breathless. William's eyes were like warm light, as if telling me that I didn't need to be afraid of these eyes. My heart was beating violently, and my palms were slightly sweaty. Olivia, do you have anything to say? William squeezed my hand gently, his voice low and soothing. I took a deep breath, stood up, and glanced at everyone around me. Suddenly, I felt stronger than ever before, as if all the pressure and constraints were no longer important. And I looked at Ryan's mother first. Ryan and I divorced a long time ago. I don't know why he didn't tell you. I turned to Ryan again. Ryan, I never thought that marriage and divorce could be acting. There is no possibility between you and me anymore. Finally, I looked at everyone. I'm already William's legal wife, and I have nothing to do with Ryan's family from now on. These words were said so clearly and crisply, as if a heavy stone had fallen from my heart. Ryan was stunned. His eyes were full of disbelief, his mouth slightly opened, as if he wanted to say something, but was blocked by my uncompromising words. William stood up, walked to my side, picked up the towel on the table, and slowly wiped my hand that Ryan had just grabbed. At that moment, I felt his tenderness and protection, and all the anxiety and anger in my heart gradually subsided. My wife likes quietness, William said slowly. I am a protective person. After today, I don't want to see anyone harassing my wife in any form. He glanced at Ryan's mother coldly and added in a low voice, Madam, am I clear? Ryan's mother was stunned for a moment, then nodded repeatedly, sorry to bother you. There was dissatisfaction and fear in her tone. Obviously, William's words made her feel an overwhelming majesty. William put down the towel, took my hand, and led me out of the banquet hall. All the way to the elevator, my heart was still beating violently, as if I had just experienced a life and death struggle. My steps were a little weak, but I didn't stop. William put his arm around my waist, pressed me against the inner wall of the elevator, and whispered, You mobilized so many people just to prevent Ryan from coming to me again? I looked at him, his deep eyes filled with determination and warmth that could not be ignored. I panted softly, Yes, shouldn't it be? William held my face in his hands, a deep smile flowing from his eyes. You look very beautiful today. His voice was low and full of charming charm. Before I could react, his lips had already covered mine and kissed me gently. That kiss, with endless tenderness and affection, made me unable to extricate myself. Suddenly, Ryan's voice came from outside the elevator. Olivia, Olivia. He obviously saw us, and his voice was full of anger and unwillingness. My heart tightened, but William didn't care and still kissed me deeply. I pressed the button for the underground first floor, and when the elevator door was about to close, William pinched my chin viciously and looked out. Just when all eyes were on us, William deepened the kiss again. William and I returned to Beijing and originally planned to notarize our marriage. But William thought it was too much trouble and simply took me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the marriage certificate. This time, all the procedures were simple and clear without any complicated entanglements. In this strange city, I gradually met William's family and friends. Unlike the cold William in the rumors, his relatives were polite and courteous, and his best friend joked that he lost his virginity at an old age, which caused a burst of laughter. But I couldn't help but wonder How could this man in his 30s keep such a pure life for so many years? To William for half a month, and we still keep a certain distance. Although our marriage seems harmonious and happy, he never seems to cross that invisible boundary. Sometimes I wonder if he is deliberately avoiding me, or because he simply doesn't want to touch. That night, the air was a little subtle. I want to get closer to him, but I was also nervous. What if he didn't want to? I shook my head and decided not to think about it anymore. However, William suddenly turned around, put his arms around my waist, and whispered, "What are you thinking about?" I quickly shook my head, trying to hide my thoughts. He leaned over and kissed me on the lips. At that moment, all my doubts and anxieties were dispelled by his gentle kiss. Perhaps I cared too much about him after all. I just want you to have more time to accept me. William's voice was low and hoarse. His warm palm covered the back of my hand, and my heart was beating so hard that it seemed to jump out of my chest. At that moment, I understood. I was no longer the girl controlled by Ryan. Now, I belonged to William, and all of this was so real and unquestionable. However, life doesn't always go according to our plans. The controversy caused by the birthday party gradually spread to the internet. Under almost every interview video of William, you can see malicious comments. TSK, TSK, domineering president, a dog in human form, so conscienceless that even his wife. These comments spread rapidly like a cancer, and the more they were banned, the more ferocious they became. William didn't seem to care about it, but said that it didn't matter. The more he covered it up, the more he provoked the other party. However, I felt like there was something stuck in my throat, and I felt that these shameless comments were like poisonous stings, deeply hurting me. Just before we were about to return to France, Ryan suddenly showed up at our doorstep with a group of live-streaming influencers, and their noise was so loud that almost the entire community could hear it. "William is lawless. I must see my wife." Ryan's voice was full of malice. He shouted loudly, trying to stir up a farce. I grabbed the materials I had prepared and rushed downstairs, but I forgot that I had already sent the servants out to buy things, leaving me alone at home. Facing the camera, I was almost speechless, but countless fragments flashed through my mind. I once cried for Ryan and endured so much humiliation and deception for him. Ryan standing outside. He obviously didn't expect me to appear here. "Olivia," he looked at me with surprise. "Ryan." I didn't give him a chance to react and slapped him hard. "Take a piss and look at yourself. Who gave you the confidence that I would always stay by your side?" I didn't stop and slapped him again. "Who gave you the courage to spread rumors and slander me and William?" Finally, I threw the printed chat history in his face and said, "Take a good look at it. Stop tainting the term childhood sweethearts." Then, I threw the player into his arms without hesitation. The player was playing the recording of his phone call to me that night. What redemption? Bullshit. I was so annoyed with her in those years. If my mother hadn't forced me, I wouldn't bother with her. Ryan's face suddenly turned pale, and he pressed the pause button in panic. It seemed as if all his strength had been drained away from him. Things don't end with the pause button. Ryan's troubles are not destined to be so easily calmed down. The live broadcast was cut off, and all the clips were deleted, but the rumors on the internet are still spreading wildly. Jessica and Ryan's scandals were exposed, and they almost became the focus of society. Even more shocking was that Jessica was exposed to be wearing luxury goods given by Ryan, living in a mansion bought by him, and hooking up with other rich second generations. William has always been a calm figure in the business world, and he did not deliberately target the Ryan family. However, when all this became the focus of public attention, William made a decisive decision. He cut off all cooperation between the group and the Ryan family and completely severed ties with the Ryan family. All this seemed to be William's final blow to me, exposing all of Ryan's disguises and hypocrisy. Ryan's mother's apology call pierced my heart like a thorn. "Olivia, we didn't think highly of Ryan. We're sorry. Can you please consider our friendship for so many years?" I interrupted her coldly. "Aunt, it's true that you have taken care of me for many years. But over the years, I have also listened to you and handed over my parents' business to the Ryan family little by little. I never owe you anything." After that, I hung up the phone, and the suppressed emotions in my heart suddenly surged up. However, I didn't dwell on the past. William and I prepared to return to France as planned. That day it was drizzling, and the cold wind was making people shiver. I was standing at the airport security checkpoint when I heard a commotion. I looked back and saw Ryan running out again, looking disheveled and covered in mud, like an abandoned child. Olivia, Olivia! He desperately held onto my suitcase, lost his balance, and fell down in front of me. Olivia, don't leave, okay? He cried like a child, his eyes full of regret and helplessness. William's face was full of impatience. He only glanced at his watch and nodded slightly to the people next to him. Then, those who were about to take pictures were immediately cleared out. Ryan grabbed my suitcase tightly. Olivia, listen to me. There are too many misunderstandings between us. That call was made by Jessica, not me. I didn't know anything. I was drunk when I said those things. I never thought you were annoying. He continued to hold me. I married you because I really like you. I said those things to Jessica because she seduced me. I don't really want to divorce you. I looked at him coldly, but there was only disgust in my heart. The condom was stuffed into your pocket by someone else, and you were pushed into bed by someone else. Those words that belittled and humiliated me must have come out of your mouth because of a demon. Seeing his eyes full of tears, I didn't pause and continued to say fiercely, Ryan, you just think that I can't live without you. So you despise me, laugh at me, and suppress me. This has become the only way to feel your existence in your failed life, right? Ryan has 2 sons. The eldest son took over the family business, while the second son was lazy and played around. The only thing worth mentioning about Ryan's life was that he once made a girl rely on him wholeheartedly and trust him. However, everything was destroyed by his own hands in the end. Let it go, Ryan. I finally made up my mind. Don't let the friendship we've had since childhood end so ugly. His hand trembled violently, and he let go of my suitcase. A trace of pain flashed in his eyes. Olivia, can you give me another chance? This time I will definitely. I quickly stepped aside. It's so dirty. Ryan's voice suddenly stopped. I turned around, pulled my suitcase, and walked towards William. He was waiting quietly not far away, and I held his arm. Suddenly, there was a cry behind me. After that, I didn't see Ryan for a long time, but occasionally heard some news about him from my roommate. Jessica's scandal continued to ferment, and many rich second generations and Ryan jointly sued her. She was expelled from school and could not get her diploma. Ryan, because he completely lost the support of the Ryan family, was kicked out of the family. His credit cards were frozen, all the assets under his name were reclaimed, and he was even forced to work. The former second young master now has to be very careful even when he takes out a bottle of wine. Occasionally, people on the street witness him and Jessica arguing over financial issues, fighting until they are bloodied, but no one pays attention to their existence anymore. My life gradually became stable. I had more and more students, and eventually I had a whole class of children. I also made some progress in language learning. Although I was often confused by complex tenses, at least I could communicate in daily life. William took me skiing, and as we rushed down the Alps at high speed, I screamed and felt the whistling wind. At night, we lay in the Valley Hotel and counted the stars. Every star seemed to be someone who had loved us and was quietly guarding us. During the first spring festival in France, William took me to the Alps to ski. When I went downhill, I screamed and welcomed the baptism of snow and wind. At night, we lay in a hotel in the valley and counted the stars. Every star seemed to be someone who had loved us and was quietly guarding us. At that moment, I felt a long-lost peace. With William by my side, I was no longer the tortured and heartbroken girl. I began to learn to let go of the past and embrace a new life. William has a sister who is 10 years younger than him. She has loved rabbits since she was a child, and she still loves the pink rabbit when she grows up. She always says that she is from the rabbit planet to save the world, but she is not so lucky. Her mother died early, and her father also left when she was 8. She watched her brother deal with those uncles who were eyeing him covetously and tried his best to maintain the family business. She knew that she could not become a burden to her brother and could not drag him down anymore. She endured all the pain in silence. She didn't say a word when the servants abused her. When her classmates laughed at her because she had aphasia, she just smiled silently at William. She used words to convey her inner bitterness to her brother. Brother, school is still more fun. I won't go home this summer vacation. Remember to take care of yourself. Brother, I learned how to make small cakes. I put them in the refrigerator. Remember to eat them. Brother, today is another happy day. I made new friends. However, the last note she left for William was, Brother, life on Earth is too hard. I'm going back to Rabbit Planet. Don't worry, I'll come back to see you often. William was too busy. School and company were like battlefields every day. When the war ended, what he was waiting for was his sister's cold body. At that moment, his world seemed to collapse completely. My sister tried hard and joined many mutual aid groups, depression mutual aid groups, aphasia mutual aid groups. She tried to find help, but everyone was busy taking care of themselves. Many people added her, but they quickly disappeared from her life. However, many years later, I finally clicked on her pink bunny avatar and sent her a friend request. Sister, please add me. Sister, are you busy? Sister, it's another sunny day. Can I be so lucky to be accepted as your friend? William said I was too noisy, and he always kept an eye on his sister's WeChat, fantasizing that one day she would come back and reconnect with him. 10 years later, his sister never came back, and I became another sister in his life. William finally accepted my friend request. Seeing me happily sharing my life day by day, he suddenly thought, if I had appeared 10 years ago, would my sister's ending be different? Is she a gift to me? William's loneliness is indescribable. He lives alone far away from his hometown, expiating his sin against his sister day after day. Every message in his phone is the only color in his life. However, I became the one who accompanied him through these years. That night, he whispered to me, You are my wife now. Tell me, is this really a gift from her? Has she forgiven me? I kissed away the tears from his eyes. She never blamed you. She is the angel who saved the world. She saved you and saved me. William hugged me tightly and whispered, Olivia, I love you, I really love you. This love carries the promise and redemption that he had not fulfilled for his sister over the years. And I finally found my true belonging in William's arms. The biggest regret in life may be that the person you love is not the right one. However, the biggest luck in life is that I love you, and you happen to fall into my palm and become the warmth of my life. During these long years, our love has gone through all the pain and hurt and finally converged into the light of happiness.